rolling through a wild Tuesday here in Milwaukee, and we have the guy who may well flip Senate control back to the Republican Party, Tim Sheehy, who is here with us right now from Montana. I like to look, I don't know if you ever check it, I like to look at the gambling odds, predictive markets out there. I don't know if you look, but you have moved into a big favorite. Montanans are responding really well to you. First major campaign for you. How are you feeling? What are you seeing on the ground? And how optimistic are you as we sit about 3.5 months away from Election Day?
Well, it's not first major campaign. It's the first any campaign for me.
Yeah.
So this is my Cold War shot into politics, and not something I ever saw myself doing. But, listen, some of us served overseas. Buck obviously was there too, and I served Iraq, Afghanistan. And Afghanistan specifically, my wife, who's behind me here at the show, she was a Marine. We both fought there. And watching that collapse in 21, I served multiple tours there. Was on the radio every day with our friends, partners, interpreters, allies that we were abandoning. And, I just said, I refuse to watch this happen in our country anymore. I refuse to watch policies that are literally targeting our own people for destruction in many ways. I mean, we're having an upward transfer of the wealth. We're opening our border wide open. And we have an economy that's not rewarding hard work and blue-collar workers in America anymore. So right now what we're seeing on the campaign trail in Montana has been an unknown, of course. We announced a year ago roughly, and I was at 4% name ID and 3% because there was a judge in Missoula named Sheehy. So basically I was nobody. But listen, my message is one of common sense. I'm just saying we need to bring common sense back to this country. And for Montanans, what does that mean? That means they want a secure border, safe streets, cheap gas, cops are good, criminals are bad, boys are boys, girls are girls. I mean, these are pretty simple things that weren't controversial 5 years ago. And I think everyday working class Americans are like, what the hell's happening to the country I grew up in where, landlords who have squatters in their home illegally are being arrested for kicking them out of their homes. We're telling our daughters that they should share locker rooms with boys, that boys can play girls' sports. And, we're legalizing crime in the streets while we're trying to imprison former presidents. So up is down and left is right now.
Speaking as a reformed East Coast, former up in the Northeast guy here, we tend to think of Montana. I think there's a very broad perception, certainly on the coast of Montana. It's, come on, it's like cowboys, rodeo, it's got to be red, right? It's like northern Texas. But the political dynamic there is actually pretty different, right? It's much more competitive than people realize because you have a huge swath in the middle for the state of people who are independents, libertarian leaning. Like, what's the political demographic makeup of
No,
your state?
thank you for asking that because that is an important thing for people nationally to recognize because, as you both mentioned, this race will determine control of the Senate. It's that simple. We win Montana, we win the Senate. Exactly.
Yeah,
a lot of pressure. But and therefore, people have to have a little better understanding of what's happening there. The amount of people I talk to who mega donors, max out donors, media personalities who, do this for a living, they're like, boy, what's going on in Montana? And I'm like, you guys got to tune in. This is an incredibly important race. I mean, the White House is important, but the Senate is just as important, really. I mean, if Trump wins, when he wins,
divided government's going to slow him down.
That's exactly right. So,
yeah.
But back to your question, Montana has a complicated political history. Yes, it is generally perceived as red, and I believe today it is. But just 9 years ago in Montana, 7 of 8 statewide elected offices were Democrats, and today 8 of 9 are Republicans because we've added 1 congressional seat. So, and that brand of Democrat in Montana is the West Virginia, J.D. Vance style, Ohio blue collar, working class, miner, logger, truck driver that used to be a pro-union, pro-working class Democrat. Back when you had a pro-gun, pro-border, pro-life Democrat, those don't exist anymore.
So they pull that in the state of Montana, but I'm assuming they go to D.C. and they're rolling with Chuck Schumer, right?
Well, so the only one we have left is John Tester. Right. My opponent is the final remaining statewide Democrat in the state. I mean, he's it. He's the final holdout of that old brand of Democrat. And to be quite honest, he's a masterful politician. There's no question about it. Credit where credit's due. He's good at it. And the state party and the national party dumps $150, $200 million in every election cycle to brainwash Montanans into believing that John Tester is a down-the-road, moderate, common-sense Joe Manchin-style Democrat. And nothing could be further from the truth. He's voted every single time with Biden's agenda. He's supported Biden and Kamala with all. He's got 100% Planned Parenthood, F from the NRA. He's as progressive
How
as
does
they
an
come.
F from the NRA get elected in Montana? That's just astonishing.
Well, we're going to change that here in 90 days.
Well, there we go.
So you mentioned John Tester. I bet there's people who are listening to us right now that have voted for him in the past because he is a very skilled politician. But you have the ability to flip control of the United States Senate to Republicans to potentially give Donald Trump the ability to enact some of his agenda. One of the things we hear a lot, though, there are a lot of new people who have moved into Montana from different states post-COVID. What does the data look like so far as you can tell? Are they more likely to be Republican voters?
Florida.
Are they more likely to
It's
be
like Florida.
Democrats? It's like Florida, who
Yeah.
Buck has moved. A lot of people moved into my state of Tennessee. Break that down for us, because this is a first-time sense.
So I'll use the East Coast as an example. I don't know where your geographic listener base is, but since you're out of Florida,
All
Everywhere.
50 states.
Yeah, I'm sure.
500 stations.
but they're political refugees in Montana and Idaho. So people fleeing Oregon, Washington, California, the cows, California, Washington, we call them. As the cows are fleeing the left coast, those who are seeking to escape the totalitarian leftist policies of the left coast are going to Montana and Idaho to live their freedom, live in a place of liberty, carry their guns. I just actually met a guy a few weeks ago south of Missoula who had left Seattle with his 3 children after they arrested him in Home Depot for not wearing a mask.
Oh, my
and he
God.
fled. He said, I'm never going back.
Yeah.
The people leaving the left coast who want to keep voting Democrat are going to Colorado. They've turned it blue effectively. And, some are going to Texas, Austin, and they're going to Arizona. The people that want to vote red and live in a free country are going to Montana, Idaho. So short answer to your question is that demographic shift on the whole is helping us. Now, there are some small municipalities it is hurting us. The university towns like Bozeman and Missoula definitely have gotten bluer. But on a state level, we're getting redder. So that's helping us. And then to the Trump Tester vote, as you talked about, the people that vote for Trump and say, yeah, but Tester's got our back. He's a good working class guy. They just need to wake up. He's not Mr. Pro-veteran. He sits on the VA committee and panders to veterans every day. I am a combat veteran, combat wounded veteran. My wife's a combat veteran. I started my business with all veterans. Like, how is a never having served career bureaucrat who was in the state Senate for 15 years or 10, whatever it was, and now he's been in the U.S. Senate for 18 years. He's been a career bureaucrat politician. How is he going to take better care of veterans than a combat vet? He's not. It's that simple. So they got to wake up to that, and they have to wake up to his voting record, which is he has not been a common sense voice in the middle of the road. He's been a loyal, progressive foot soldier for the Biden agenda every step of the way. So it's time for them to wake up and realize that Montana is at the tipping point this cycle, and they got to get out and vote. And listen, if conservatives show up and vote in Montana, we win. It's that simple. If we show up, we win.
And to that end, how can our listeners help?
Listen, if you're in Montana and you're listening, spread the word. You've got to get to those people who somehow think that Tester is still a common sense voice. Make sure they understand his voting record and make sure understand the issues. Go to timformt.com. You can donate, support us, $5, $10. But more important than that, look at the issues and communicate to your friends and family. It's an
Tim
important
Sheehy,
race.
everybody, one of the most important Senate races that is out there right now. It'll be a huge pickup if you can win. Tim, best of luck to you on that one. When you win, you're going to have to come back on and hang out with us again. And also, thank you for your service with the SEAL teams. Appreciate you, sir.
Thanks for your support. We'll be back.
We'll 100% get you back, and we'll make sure that you're flipping Montana. Everybody out there listening right now, get out there, do all the work to put this guy in the Senate, flip back control.